guys, welcome to She Knows Arsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at at Jacino Tweets and at She Knows Arsenal. Welcome to the match reaction. Arsenal 6, Sevilla nil. What a game. I don't know. But before we get started, I know it's a little bit like, what is the situation you have going on? I told you guys that, I'm spending some time in the UK. So I'm trying to get things kind of set up. So, I know this isn't my normal setup. I know this isn't great. But as long as you guys can see me and hear me, I think that's, good enough. So let me know if anything sounds weird or whatever, and I'll try to fix it. But beyond that, I do think we have enough to get this done. So there's almost 100 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And actually, let me try to close this window really quick. Give me 1 second. Or actually, no, I think it's fine. So yeah, what a game. We're going to do our player ratings and also kind of talk about, um, you know, who we think was the man of the match. So, get that ready. Don't tell me now, but, we'll talk about that as well. But, I think we just saw a maybe a better version of what we saw against Chelsea, which is great. I know we're going to get a lot of it's just preseason, it's just preseason, it's just preseason, but we're literally like a week away from the season starting. And so I do think that this is kind of how we're going to play. Now, whether or not, the um, the opposition gets better or not, I do think Crystal Palace will come out swinging, at their place. But I do think if we continue to play our way, it won't matter. I really do. I think we're going up a level. There's just a level of like energy and continuity between this group that I didn't think would be achievable this quickly. And the way that you kind of, see Jesus fits right in, Saliba, Zinchenko, those things are really important because, they're going to probably be starting on the first day of the season. So that's what you want to see. So, yeah, but we're actually going out for the football terrace is actually going out. So I do need to go ahead and get through these player ratings. So, of course, I'll give you guys my ratings. You give me yours. We'll kind of go through it, but we're going to kind of try to work through it as fast as possible so that we're not here forever. But I'll start off with Ramsdale. I don't think he had much to do really in terms of saving anything. I thought he was pretty good when he was called upon. There was also, some good distribution there for him. So I'm not going to give him like a 9 or 8 or 9 because, he didn't really have much to do and he didn't have many saves. So I'm going to give him a 7. But it looks like Ramsdale, in terms of his distribution, is getting back to his best, which is really why we got him, right? So, and you guys, like anybody who's in the comment section thinking that my title is serious about winning the league, it's not. So we're not going to have these like, we're not good enough to win the league. Arteta's crap. We're just Man City. We know it's just a joke. Relax. All right. So Ben White, I think for the most part, he was pretty good. Towards the end of the game, he really started to come into the game a lot more in the second half. But I do think that there was a middle section in there where he was trying to dribble out of the back and he got dispossessed every single time. And my whole thing is like, if you're going to do that and you're going to beat the press, which he's really good at, beating the press on the dribble, as soon as you pick up your head, you need to find a pass or else it's all for nothing because now you're out of position. Now, Sevilla wasn't good enough to really attack that space, but we know Premier League teams are going to have really tricky, fast wingers in those spots in behind Ben White. And so if he loses the ball there and we're out of position or we're out of our shape, we're going to be in trouble. So for me, I really like Ben White. I think he starts on the first day of the season. I think he's coming back into it. But that would be my only caveat, is that like, if you're going to dribble out of the back, pull your head up and make the pass. Easy for me to say sitting here on my sofa, but that's kind of like my take on Ben White. So I'm actually going to give him a 6.5. Was just kind of solid, right? It wasn't like a disaster class or anything, but that's what he's really good at, is coming out of the back. He just needs to make sure he connects the pass. With Saliba, I think today, and I've kind of waited on saying this because, and maybe I still will hold off on it. Like, it'll be a take, but a take that I'll hold loosely, won't be one that I hold tight. But I think Saliba's our best defender. You know, that's what he showed in preseason. He's been our best defender during preseason. I'll say that. And I think Ben White. He passed the ball to Saliba under pressure. He was able to wiggle out of that. He was good in the box. Like, his heading in the box was pretty good. His defensive interventions in the box were very good. He anticipated well. His passing was good. He was just very, very, very good. And so it's gonna be interesting. I do think Ben White gets to start on the first day of the season, but when Tomiyasu comes back, what happens? What happens? Because Saliba's just so good, and I do think that, like, you got to get him on a new deal. You have to make him important because he's just the best defender that we have that I can see. So yeah, I really enjoyed Saliba's performance. So I'm gonna give him an 8.5. You guys, let me know if somebody's saying that I'm muted. If you guys can hear me, let me know. If you can't, say something. He's just saying mute. I don't actually think I'm on mute. I know I'm not. So yeah. Let's see what you guys are saying about this. Jude K says Ben White to the bench when Tommy gets back. Anike says Saliba is the definition of a Rolls Royce defender. Elo says he's bloody good, to be fair. Dre the Great says the first mistake White makes, I'm calling for Saliba. Sophie Zalaz says Saliba, Pocket, Mbappe, Neymar, and Di Maria. John says Saliba is our elation. Stan Kroenke says maybe Saliba will kick on if we sack Arteta. He's coming on now, so I don't think we really need to sack Arteta, do we? Aquo says, a cow says, yeah, right. Saliba is now our best CB, no dispute. Yeah, for me, I'm going to say he's been our best center back in preseason. Definitely want to see him against Premier League opposition that's not playing in preseason. But I do think that we're right there. Like, we're right there. I really think he's so good, and he just reminds me of center backs that we had in the past, like Sol Campbell and Kolo Toure, where they just kind of cleaned everything up and made things easier for the rest of the team, which I love. Gabriel, I think, struggled in terms of, like, on the ball. I thought that he was a little bit sloppy. He made a couple of mistakes. I do think Gabriel needs to sharpen up. Gabriel goes through these patches where sometimes he's really, really sharp and on it, and other times he just kind of is, like, you can see him bobbling around. And I think he is struggling just a bit. Not struggling to the point where it's like we need to be worried about him, but I do kind of see why the club would want to bring in another left-sided center back, because he needs competition for his spot, and we also need another option just in case he's not on his game. Right now, if Gabriel is not playing well, there's nothing we really can do about it. I know people say, well, we'll play Tommy there. The left-sided center back is going to be left-footed, I think. So that is something that I would like to see if there's money there, while the transfer window is open. But for me, Gabriel just kind of had one of those games where he wasn't very clean on the ball, and his first touch wasn't great, but you guys know how I feel about Gabriel. I think he's great. He just needs to clean things up. So I'm going to give him a 7. Anike says, I won't lie, Gabriel criticism last season didn't stick out as much to me, but seeing him next to Saliba, it's very apparent the levels between them. Jasper says, quick left-footed center back is needed, in my opinion. Let's see. 6 million says Saliba can play left-sided center back, worst case. Hakum says, if only Marie was actually good. Elliot Roberts says Saliba and Gabriel are the new Campbell and Toure. Watch this space. Denzel says Saliba needs to be given the number 2 shirt immediately, and Hector Bellerin leave the club now. I would imagine that he would get the number 2 if Bellerin left, which I think he will. Hakum says Saliba is at least above average defender in the Premier League. He has to start. Alistair Ben says stop the Arteta out. and just get behind the team. Arsenal are looking good. Yeah, I don't really think that there's a conversation about Arteta out right now. I know people are trying to force it, but right now it's hard for people. It's hard for me to connect with Arteta out when we're playing well. I know it's just preseason, but we have to wait for the season to actually start, right? And a lot of the things like it's weird to me that when the team is playing well, they act like it's just because the players are doing it. But then when we're playing bad, everything is on Arteta. They're playing well because Arteta's coached them properly. Arteta's always kind of been a good coach. You guys know I've spoken about this a lot. I think what he's struggled with is the managerial part of things, how to manage a team, how to manage the fringe players and things like that. But in terms of what he does on the training, field, what he does in order to get his players prepared for games, those things are fine, so and you're seeing that. So for me, it's like the Arteta out conversation is so stale at the moment. Let things like wait at least until we lose a game. It's strange to win 6-0 and then be talking about Arteta out, really. Um, but let's talk about Zinchenko. I think he was really, really good today. Of course, like we have to acknowledge the fact that he's not an amazing defender. I do think one on one, he's going to get beat sometimes. He's going to be out of position. He's going to dive in. But some of his interceptions were very good. He had one where he kind of swept up behind the center backs. He had another one where he stepped in front to win the ball. Thought that was very good. But what he does in terms of playing in midfield, him and Xhaka switching spots, him really pinching in and being inverted, some of the passes that he was putting in, the one that he put on a plate for Odegaard, that should have been a goal. His crossfield switches, that's just something we haven't had. I remember, and this is not shade to Tierney. I love Tierney, you guys know that. But there was times where we would try to do that with Tierney. He just couldn't hit that ball. And so yeah, I think Zinchenko is taking us up a level as well, especially technically, and confidence wise as well. Like you could just tell he's played for a good team, so he knows what it takes. So yeah, Zinchenko looks really, really good, and I would like to see him. When Tierney comes back in some games, maybe play in midfield. I would like to see that. Not like I'm saying Xhaka needs to be dropped. I'm just saying as a different option. But I thought Zinchenko was really, really good, and so I gave him an 8. Should have gotten an assist. That was on Odegaard for me. I know that the commentators were saying that he was kind of frustrated with himself for not passing the ball on the ground, but I think Odegaard should have been able to put that in the back of the net. So for me, Zinchenko, such a good player. Glad we picked him up. Giving him an 8. Crispy Rice says Zinchenko was upset about that pass to Odegaard. He bobbled it. John says Tierney is in trouble. I can sense it coming. Diallo says, I'm going to say it now. KT is in big trouble. It's not just about fitness. Zinni has more facets to his game. Lynn Simpson says, hi, Jess. Hope you're settling well in UK. I am. Thank you so much. C. Wilder says, do we think Zinchenko should be first choice? Yeah. I mean, I think for me, if they're both fit, I still think Zinchenko starts. And I think that's kind of the situation that Tierney has put himself in by not being fit. I do think if he had been fit all this time, we may not have brought in somebody as ready to go as Zinchenko. But I do think that this was like Arteta decided he did not want his seasons to be derailed again by Tierney's injuries. And I get that injuries are not always the player's fault, but the amount of friendly games that he's played, the times that he's played injured, some of that he has to take upon himself. And so I do think he's put himself in trouble. It's unfortunate. He's not an Arteta player as well. I've said that many, many times that although I think Arteta does rate him and likes him, he's not an Arteta player. So as soon as you bring in somebody that Arteta really likes, I think instantly Tierney's under threat, right? So it is what it is. Against Crystal Palace, first game of the season, I'm starting the exact same back line that started today. And Tomiyasu and Kieran Tierney need to win their spots back. Not get them given back to them, but they need to win their spots back because at this point they just haven't been fit enough. They haven't been fit enough. They're not even on the bench now. And the season starts in a week. So it is what it is, isn't it? Osei says it's truly sad that even when there are disagreements, some fans are not willing to stand with Arsenal, the Arsenal team, and just encourage and support in the times. Jude K says Zinchenko looks weak defending on corners. Yeah, I mean, one of his flaws really is defensively. He's just not a great defender, and it's just the reality. So we're going to see moments where against some of the better one-on-one attackers, he's probably going to get cooked, and maybe he's not going to be the best on corners, but um, that's the risk that you take. I mean, Arteta's signings and the way that we play, I interpret it as we want to have the majority of the ball. We want to press up high. We want to play in their half of the pitch, and we're going to take that risk because we want to be on the front foot. And so what that's going to mean is sometimes we're going to get exposed because Zinchenko is basically another midfielder out there. And so I think we have to take that in consideration. That doesn't mean it's okay. Like when Zinchenko gets cooked, I'm going to be upset about it. But ultimately, I think the risk is worth the reward, because the reward is what we saw today. Um, Omen Nanya says Tommy sends White to the bench in the number 2 position. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I know I'm not gonna. Okay, I Swinifolua. Sorry, I know I didn't get that right, but I want to at least try. You're saying I disagree, Jess. There's a point Zinchenko came across to cover Saliba's defending will get better. Fair enough. So yeah, I thought he looked really, really. I thought Zinchenko looked good. You also put in a super chat. Thank you so much. That I disagree. Zinchenko covered Saliba twice. I did mention that he did have some good interventions in there, but I also think that one-on-one defending is going to be his kryptonite. It's going to be the one thing that he's not going to really be able to do for us against the best defenders, which is fine because again, I think having Zinchenko is worth the risk. I've said that already. Like I really do think he's worth the risk. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. There's about 742 of you guys in here. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and we'll move on to the next one. I just want to make sure that there's one thing checked on here. And then I'm going to, yeah. So, Xhaka. Let's move on to Xhaka. He was really good today, you guys. And here's the difference between me and other YouTubers is that I I think that Xhaka, we need to either have competition for him or an upgrade, whatever word you want to use, upgrade, competition, another option, whatever you want to call it. I still think that player needs to come in, but he's been really good during this preseason, and he was damn near the best guy, like best player on the pitch today. He just looks really like ready to go this season, and there's no way to deny it. I know some people want to and act like I saw somebody say that, oh, Xhaka is so much lower than the rest of this team in quality. That is such an over exaggeration. Like he's not he I don't think that he's that much lower than the other players. I just think that he has limitations that are very apparent that could really hurt you. And then for me, the main thing with Xhaka is about when the red mist descends and he gets red cards and does the bad fouls and penalties. That's more of my issue with Xhaka than what he actually does on the ball. And I also think since Arteta has come in, he's been less exposed defensively. The only thing that I think that he lacks is the ability in the final third. But today, he did really well in the final third. I thought he probably deserved an assist. He could have gotten a couple of goals. I thought he was very, very good today. And yeah, like Lynn said, he had that really good pass that made the 6th goal. So for me, I'm I'm coming around to the idea that Jack is just going to be a part of the family. He's going to be that uncle that you don't really like very much, that you hug and he stinks, whatever. He's kind of annoying, makes crude jokes, kind of like, but you're stuck with him and he's family and it is what it is, right? I don't think he's going anywhere. So for me, it's I don't want to be that kind of person that just holds on to an agenda just because I don't love the player. I think he was great today. Still would like Tielemans to come in, but I'm going to give Xhaka an 8.5. Thought he was excellent. Thomas Partey, I thought he was another one that played really well. I thought he was a little bit sloppier in the first half and really clicked into gear in the second half. He had one pass with the outside of his foot that was the best pass probably of the game. I thought Martinelli could have done better with that. But yeah, he just shows again that he's a very difficult player to have a backup for because he does something so special that other players really can't do. Sorry, I don't know. The door just slammed, but I think that with Thomas Partey, we're going to have a hard time finding anybody that can do anything similar to what he's doing because he's just one of a kind. So for me, I'm going to give Thomas Partey an 8. I thought he was really solid. He ran the midfield with Granit Xhaka. I think their partnership is very strong. And so, yeah, I thought he was great. DJ Oni, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, keep up the good work, Jess. Xhaka has been good. He has. And I'm not going to sit here and deny it just because I want another player to come in. Tim says 100% Xhaka is that uninvited guest who stays to the end. Godson says we cannot keep killing Xhaka for mistakes in the past. Lots of Arsenal players have limitations, but we accept them. Learn More says Xhaka has been good for months and months. Start giving him credit when he needs. Xhaka is the gangster of the team. Again, also, if you guys haven't been here, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have not because there's been a lot of new people to the channel, but last season when he was playing well, I said it. I know people feel like maybe they only hear me say negative things about Granit Xhaka. It's very like far away from the truth. I thought he played really well last season and the season prior, and I said it. So there is a world where you can be critical of a player and also complimentary of them because there's a lot of players are if you're there's only some players that are like 10s out of 10s every single game. Most players are going to have things that you're critical of and things that you really like. You talk about both and it's not really an agenda. And there's also a world where you can think that you can improve upon a player, but you also rate the player that's just playing in that position right now. And that's kind of where I'm at with Granite at the moment. Um, let's see. So that's Partey and Xhaka. Let's talk about Odegaard, our new captain. Um, I really like Odegaard a lot. Like I really do. And I think my main concern with him is not my main concern with him is not anything that he does on the ball, and he has so much quality. But the next level for Odegaard is adding goals, and of course, I think he scored in the last game against Chelsea, which was great. But then in this game, I found him going back into that kind of like he lacked that clinical edge, and he wouldn't shoot when he was in good positions. But I think ultimately he had a good game. I love that he's captain, like all that kind of stuff, right? Um, so for me, I'm just keep it short and sweet with Odegaard. I'm going to give him a 7.5. He's great. I think Odegaard is such a good player. I'll be really interested to see what happens when Vieira comes in because I do think Vieira might be the player that kind of unlocks Odegaard. And the reason why I say that is because they play in a similar position. And if Odegaard maybe feels like there's somebody stepping on his heels, he may take more shots. iHeart says, let him continue to pull the strings. He can pull the strings, but again, he's making runs into the box, and it wouldn't hurt if he would pull the trigger every once in a while. Jude K says, and thank you so much. I really appreciate your super chat. Says, my daughters want to know, did you play soccer in the States? I did. I played all the way through college. I went to Georgia State University. That's when I stopped playing was after college. And yeah, I played from the time I was 6 all the way through, university. So yeah, I did play. Let's see. Tony says Odie with 3 good players in front of him is going to be so lethal. And again, you guys, this is the thing is even though I'm saying things that I feel like they can improve upon, I'm still giving them scores that represent their overall performance. So I still think Odegaard is really, really good. I rate Odegaard very highly. My biggest thing with him this season is that I do expect him to get at least 10 goals and 10 assists, at least. So there you go. Um, Hakum, that's so cool that you went to Georgia State. Go Panthers. I love that. Small world, like you said. I love that. Joshua, yes. Um, James says, which positions did you play, Jess? Yeah, I played midfield through high school, and then I played right back in college. Let's see. So everybody, of course, taking it serious. We have rivals in the chat, getting upset because the title says, "Are we winning the league? Yes or yes." The fact that you're in here trying to convince us that we're not very good or we're going to have a reality check, I think that just shows how worried you guys are. Like, that's just the reality. Whenever we play well, you guys are in the chat. Strange. So yeah, I think Vieira might be the kickstart for Odegaard to really start, putting the ball in the back of the net. But I still think he had a really good performance today. So Odegaard for me gets a 7.5. Martinelli, 2 assists on the day. The assist for Gabriel Jesus's goal was insane. Like, it was so good, and it was kind of reminiscent of the one that I think they had against Nuremberg. I may be getting that wrong, but Martinelli on the right hand side, left footed or right footed cross, kind of like a nice little bend to the back post, and Gabriel Jesus was there, and I just thought Martinelli had a very, very good game. And what I really like about Martinelli is that you can see him really pushing to try to solidify that spot. And he works really well with Gabriel Jesus, and he never stops. He never stops running. And so I think maybe in the last game I might have been a little bit critical of Gabriel Jesus, but not Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli. But I have nothing really bad to say about him today. I think he showed his quality. And for somebody who a lot of people don't consider a creative player, he gets a lot of assists. So yeah, for me, Martinelli gets a 9 for his performance. I thought it was just that good. I mean, he could have scored a goal, but he had 2 goal involvements. He played almost the entire game. Reece Nelson came in at the very end, and I just thought he was unplayable. Really, I thought Sevilla really um, had a hard time dealing with him. Ramsdale one pass, that pass that they really have, like that long range pass, and Gabriel just stops it dead. And yeah, Martinelli was so good today. So for me, he gets a 9. Johnson Moses says, Gabby, guys, have you noticed the creativity is improving? Yes, it is. Not sure why I'm getting that call right now. Let's see. Solo says, "Hey Jess, do you remember us debating about Partey being better as a 6 last season? How are you liking him now?" Yeah, I mean, I never really thought Partey was a typical 6 because you guys know, like, my whole thing was like you need to bring in somebody like Basuma and let Partey play as the 8. But I was wrong about that. He definitely can play the 6 role in this Arsenal team, and so yeah, I think he's playing great. Yo-Yo says Martinelli is a way smarter player than when he first arrived. So glad he isn't the 9 fans said he'll become. I think, yeah, Martinelli is showing that he has a lot more in his locker than just, head down, get past the marker, and just, try to get the cross in. He has a little bit of technique to him as well. And so, yeah, I agree with you. He's a lot smarter player than he was when he first came. And that didn't just happen because he was just there. It's because Arteta's been coaching him. And again, I remember the days where Arteta hated Martinelli. Come on. Arteta does not hate Martinelli. That was probably one of the stupidest things I've ever heard, to be honest. Hakum says, the new wide forward can wait until January, in my opinion. I don't know about all that, but I think if we start off the season and there's no Tielemans and there's no wide attacker, and those 2 players come in later in the window and we've already started the season, I'm not going to be panicking because that starting lineup can beat all the teams that we play before the window closes. Let's see. Travis says, I want Gabby to play some Samba football, make the defenders unbalanced. And K9 says Gabby is changing his game, lifting his head and finding Jesus. Yeah, and I think one of my criticisms of him in the last game is I do think maybe his head was down, and in this game his head was up. So yeah, it's for me like things change game from game. Sometimes they're a little bit off, sometimes they're a little bit better. But Gabriel Martinelli is an excellent player. So for me, 9. I have nothing to complain about from him. I thought he was excellent. Saka, he also had a really good game. 2 goals, one being a penalty and one being just like a regular goal from open play. I thought he was getting up to his old self. I with him, he's always triple, quadruple teamed, so um, it's tough for him out there. But I think he holds his own, especially because he doesn't have an overlapping fullback, so he does have to kind of hold the width and do his thing. But yeah, I think, Saka had a good game. As he usually does. I don't think he was better than Martinelli, albeit he had 2 goals, but I thought Martinelli was the more dangerous of the two. But I'll give Saka an 8.5, 2 goals. Can't really complain about that. Love Bakayo, and yeah, he was great. Now, talk about the main man, Gabriel Jesus, hat trick in his first game at the Emirates. What can you say about the guy? He just was he's just sensational, right? I think we've been starved for so long of the type of striker that we need. And I get that people, what about Aubameyang? He wasn't good like the season after he signed that new deal. So I'm not talking about the Aubameyang before that new deal. I'm talking about this one that just left in January. He was nowhere near what we needed. Gabriel Jesus runs into the far post there for like little tap ins. Also good with his link up play, can play out wide, switch positions with Martinelli, switch positions with Saka. A lot of good pressing, very intense, leads by example, 100 miles an hour. He just is such a good player. Like he's exactly what I thought he would be. And so for me, to keep it short and sweet, hat trick, excellent game for him. 10 out of 10. It was a 10 out of 10 performance from Gabriel Jesus in front of our own fans. So it was a treat for them, which I'm jealous that I wasn't there. Dev M says Gabriel Jesus seems to have lifted his level at Arsenal. Might be another Alexis at Arsenal in the making. Yeah, he does have that vibe on of Alexis, but I like that he's less selfish than Alexis. Alexis was great, and good players are selfish, but I do think Gabriel Jesus has more of that team feel about him, which is great. I think Jesus is the perfect player for us. Solo says, I'm worried that we don't have a different type of striker than Jesus. Teams will start game planning for it. We should look at Isak as an alternative. I am I understand why people feel that way and why they feel like we need a different type of striker. But what I will say is that I think that can wait until next summer. I think Eddie and Jesus will do just fine. Um, I know that we don't have the tall striker, but what we've done in this transfer window is we've improved Plan A. And Plan A, we probably last season we executed it well for about 65-70% of the season, and then at the beginning of the season and the end of the season it fell apart because we didn't have enough depth and some of our players went in and out of form, and we didn't have the striker that we needed. Lacazette fell off of a cliff at the end of that season. So for me, we have improved Plan A, I think, to the point where maybe we could execute it to a good level about 90% of the season, against 90% of the teams in the league. Maybe we struggle away from home at Anfield. Maybe we struggle away from home at the Etihad, but mostly we'll be able to beat most teams with Plan A. And so I actually prefer that we improve Plan A and didn't waste 30-40 million on a Skamaka and not been able to go ahead and get maybe a Tielemans at the end of the window or a Zinchenko. Who knows what we wouldn't have been able to get had we had done something like that. But I think re-signing Eddie was actually the right move because you save that 30 million that which you'd have to spend. And what would we have not been able to get had we had signed that player? And ultimately he wouldn't have started for us. Skamaka, whoever you're thinking about, that would have been that different option. They don't start for us. So you have Plan B that you're barely going to use, but I would prefer us to just make Plan A a lot better, and then next summer or maybe even January, you never know, and do Plan B. But ultimately, if you have an incomplete Plan A and a Plan B that you barely even play, what's the point? So for me, it's just yeah. Okay, you guys are so weird. Like, this is a weird comment. A twine. Please, this woman is not an Arsenal fan if she can disrespect Abba. I am an Arsenal fan. We all know that once he signed the contract, he was crap. Let's be honest. And any real Arsenal fan is going to admit that nobody's more important than the club. Aubameyang was crap once he signed that new contract. Like, let's keep it real. Keep it 100. Aubameyang, this is not Aubameyang FC. It's not Ozil FC. It's not Arteta FC. When somebody is crap, you say it. And so I am a real Arsenal fan, and real Arsenal fans know the truth. He fell off. He fell off. So yeah, but yeah. And no, I don't need to be booed. What you can do is you can leave if you don't like what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's just weird. Like, it's like, let's not act like Aubameyang was good all the way up into the end. you know? So there you go. But Gabriel Jesus, so good today, 10 out of 10. And I think really the only player off the bench that made a difference was Eddie. And Eddie, I think, also is included in that group with Emil Smith Rowe, Tierney, and Tommy, and maybe Vieira. I'm assuming Vieira because I haven't really seen him play for Arsenal, but I think he's going to be of a similar level where they're starting level players, but they may not play all the time, right? And so Eddie, to me, as a starter, that probably won't play every game, which is fine. But every time he does play, he shows that he belongs with the group. He belongs with the original group, which is what I like. So Eddie, I think early signs say that I was wrong on him. I think early signs say that he's probably better than I gave him credit for, but I also think that he improved, which is great. Um, and so for me, like Eddie, he had that one move where he like nicked it past the defender and ran around the corner. And I think he passed it to Xhaka. Xhaka missed it. Then it went to Odegaard, and Odegaard kind of tippy tapped with it. But I think Eddie Nketiah is somebody that I'm starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, maybe starting games than I thought. So yeah, Eddie was great as well. So for me, Eddie, I'm going to give him an 8.5. He got a goal. And so, yeah, we're building a team. I know we've spoken about the depth a lot, and a lot of people feel like the depth is not great. I would say that I know that we lost against Brentford in behind the closed doors friendly, but I don't consider most of those players the depth because the depth is actually Tommy, Tierney, ESR, and Kedia, El Neni, if you want to add him in there, and Vieira. That's 5, 6 really good players. Lakanga as well. That when they're mixed in with the starting 11, you don't really have the drop off in quality. It's just when you have all those players together, plus a Ainsley and a Cedric and a Holding, that's when it becomes a little bit like it goes lower and lower and lower from there. So I'm kind of just like, I think we are building the depth. I still think we're 2 players short of being really comfortable. But if we start the season with the group that we have, plus Tommy and Tierney and all of them coming back in, I feel good about the first 5 games. Let's see what you guys are saying. Andre says we need to win the Europa League. We need to redeem ourselves after the Baku failure. Yeah, hopefully we get to the final at least. Diallo says not only did Abba fall off, he also couldn't this brainy positional play Arteta is seeking as a finisher. He was lethal, but that's all he got. That's what kind of where I mean, I just call it how I see it. Like I just call it how I see it. He fell off, and I've always said that I think it was a combination of complacency, not really wanting to be at Arsenal, not liking Arteta. Him and Arteta didn't really get along, and just him just falling off. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But he was great before that. Anike says, I have confidence in Eddie leading the line for us, and he'll still improve. He will still improve, I believe, as well. Solo says, Jess, what do you think of a loan move to Leicester for Lakanga to make the Tielemans deal sweeter? I'm just not sure how much game time he'll get there. For Lakanga, if he leaves us, he has to go somewhere where he's really going to get, I think, a lot of good, solid playing time. I would actually not be too opposed to him going to Burnley to play with Vincent Company. I think when that kind of like light rumor was going around, that felt like something that would be good for him. Uh, but I'd want him to get a lot of playing time, or else I'd just keep him. Um, Emmanuel says Saliba could be one of the best CBs in the world. He has a very high ceiling. Ace says, we easy Gooner do better this season, but if we sign a couple more players, we can 100% challenge. I'm not even going to start talking about challenging. I know you guys, like, I put that in the title. I'm joking, but I can't even start talking about challenging. Like, I'm just more concerned about making sure that we finish in the mid 70s. We score at least 15 to 20 more goals. We do better in the cups. We maybe win something, and we make sure that we're in Champions League next season. So yeah, that's kind of where my mind is at. I can't really even start thinking about challenging. Nocturnal Gunner says, how do you feel about Martin as captain? I think some people are slating the decision unnecessarily. Well, who else? I guess that would be my question to people that feel like he's not the right person for captain. Who else? You can't choose Tierney. He's not around enough. You can't give it to Gabriel Jesus. He just got here. Nobody wants to see Xhaka with the armband. So who else? I don't particularly like your goalkeeper. I think your goalkeeper and your striker need to have so much to have to think about that they don't really need to be captains. They need to focus on their jobs. So I don't like a striker captain. I also don't like a goalkeeper captain. I don't think Gabriel and White. I think they're both leaders, probably in the dressing room, but I still think Martin is probably the right choice. So who else were you going to choose? Lori says Tielemans, and who else? I think Tielemans, and I can't really think of the attacker because for me, has to be somebody that is better than Martinelli. I think it would be um, maybe a little bit redundant to bring in somebody else that doesn't really start for us. I know that we've seen the Gakpo rumors. I don't know if I really feel like I believe them. They're talking about 50 million euros for him. I think that's way too much for a player of his quality, even though I do rate him. So we'll see what happens with that. But right now, I can only really say Tielemans because the attacker feels like it feels like a difficult position to fill because there's not a lot of options out there. Ace says, if Xhaka performs, then I don't have a problem with him. I agree. Um, Jasper says Martin is such an obvious choice. I don't understand how some fans find it so hard to understand. It's never captain is not that deep unless the captain is terrible. So we've had bad captains in the past, but I don't think Martin will be a bad captain. I don't even think we'll talk about it very much. And we have multiple um, leaders in this side. Gabriel Jesus will be one. Zinchenko will be one. Tierney is still a leader in this team. White and Gabriel will have their and Ramsdale will also be leaders. So it's not it's Xhaka as well. It won't just be a one man job. I don't really think again like kind of similarly to backup goalkeeper. I don't think it's something that we need to worry about that much. It's who Arteta really wants as his captain, and you know it just is what it is. I think people make a big deal out of things because they want something to be upset about, but ultimately, like, you're not going to think about it on a daily basis. Um, Jahit says 1 or 2 injuries and all this hype will vanish. We need at least 2 more signings. I mean, yeah, I do think we need 2 more signings. Diallo says, not going to lie, Mr. Magalhaes has been a bit higgy recently. We need to have a quiet chat. Spoke about that at the beginning of the show when we talked about Gabriel. Because I love Gabriel, but I noticed that he goes through these periods where he's just not very reliable on the ball. He starts making these strange, kind of panicky decisions. And so, he does need to tighten up. He's going to be the pressing trigger back there with Zinchenko, Ben White, and Saliba being back there with him. They're going to press him. And that might be what he's feeling. Maybe, and I didn't really pay attention to this, but I actually don't remember who was the pressing trigger last season. It may have been him, but he will be it this season. And so when teams want to press us, they're going to go towards him. So he needs to be a lot quicker on the ball. That being said, love him to death. Would love to bring in somebody else though, just to make sure if he's not playing well, he can be sat on the bench. So yeah, I really did enjoy today's game. Onward, to Crystal Palace. We need to see a similar performance against them. Again, I think the levels will go up in terms of our competition. I do think Crystal Palace will be up for it at their place. They've improved their squad. We've improved ours. But hopefully we don't see a repeat of what we saw last season. We need to go to Selhurst Park and really make a statement. And so I expect a win, even though I know it'll be difficult. But yeah, really enjoyed this game and also really enjoyed talking to you guys. I will get my setup a lot better, being a studio like environment so that it's easier for you guys to hear and see me and the quality goes up. But you guys know I'm just in an in between period right now. But again, best part of my day hanging out with you guys. There's 700 of you guys in here, which is insane. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure that you guys share this with a friend, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, y'all.